My name is Eleanor Catherine Mitchell, and I am 66 years old. What I'm about to tell you shattered my world and rebuilt it in ways I never thought possible. The story begins on the coldest March morning. I can remember standing beside my husband's grave in the small cemetery overlooking Millbrook Valley, when my phone buzzed with a message that changed everything. I'm alive. That's not me in the casket. The wind cut through Millbrook Valley like a knife that Tuesday morning, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and dying winter. I stood beside the open grave, watching as they lowered the mahogany casket, containing what I believed to be my husband Robert's body. The cemetery sat on a hill overlooking our small town, where every face was familiar and every story was shared over coffee at Martha's Diner. 43 years of marriage doesn't prepare you for this moment. Nothing does. The hollow sound of dirt hitting wood, the mechanical whir of the lowering device, the hushed whispers of neighbors offering condolences, it all felt surreal, like watching someone else's tragedy unfold. "Mom, you need to eat something," my eldest son, Marcus, whispered, placing his hand on my shoulder. His touch felt cold, even through my black wool coat. I noticed his eyes weren't red from crying, though he dabbed at them with his handkerchief throughout the service. Standing beside him was his younger brother Tyler, shifting restlessly in his expensive Italian shoes. Both my sons wore suits that cost more than Robert and I spent on groceries in 3 months. Tyler kept checking his phone discreetly, as if this final farewell to his father was just another appointment in his busy schedule. "I'm not hungry," I replied, my voice barely audible above the wind. The pastor was finishing his final words about eternal peace and heavenly reunions, but I couldn't focus on anything except the growing feeling that something was terribly wrong. That's when I noticed her, a woman in a dark gray coat, standing about 50 yards away, partially hidden behind a large oak tree. She wasn't part of our group, wasn't someone I recognized from town. She appeared to be watching us, but when I tried to get a better look, she stepped further behind the tree. The service concluded with the traditional throwing of roses onto the casket. Marcus and Tyler each dropped a single white rose without ceremony, their expressions strangely calm for men who had just lost their father. I lingered, wanting a few more moments alone with Robert, but Marcus gently guided me toward the waiting car. "We should get you home, Mom. You've had a long day." It was only 11 a.m. As we walked across the cemetery's uneven ground, my phone vibrated in my purse. I almost ignored it, who would text me during my husband's funeral, but something compelled me to check. "Unknown number. I'm alive. That's not me in the casket." My legs nearly gave out. I stopped walking so abruptly that Tyler bumped into me from behind. The words on the screen seemed to pulse and blur as I read them again. Mom. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, reaching for my phone. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I quickly closed the message and slipped the phone back into my purse. "Nothing. Just dizzy." But my hands were shaking so violently, I could barely hold my purse closed. Who could have sent such a cruel message? And why did it feel like someone had just walked over my grave? The ride home passed in a blur of condolences from well-meaning neighbors who had gathered at our small house on Maple Street. Mrs. Henderson from next door had prepared sandwiches. The Kowalskis brought a casserole. Everyone spoke in hushed tones about what a good man Robert had been, how much they would miss seeing him working in his garden or walking to his woodworking shop every morning. Marcus and Tyler positioned themselves near the door, accepting sympathy with practiced efficiency. Tyler's wife, Vanessa, arrived fashionably late, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly Social Security check. She air-kissed my cheek and murmured something about how tragic everything was, but her attention was clearly on her phone. "We've already started handling the insurance paperwork," Marcus told me as guests began to leave. "The life insurance should come through within a few weeks. Dad was smart to increase the policy when he did." I stared at my eldest son. When did your father increase his life insurance? About 8 months ago, Tyler answered before Marcus could respond. Don't you remember he said he wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of? I didn't remember any such conversation, and Robert never made important financial decisions without discussing them with me first. We'd been equal partners in everything for 4 decades. As the last guest departed, Marcus sat down beside me on our worn velvet sofa, the same one where Robert used to read his evening newspaper. Mom, Tyler, and I have been talking. This house is too big for you now. Too many memories. We think you should consider moving into Sunset Manor, that nice assisted living facility over in Riverside. They have activities, medical staff, other people your age. I'm 66, not 96, I said sharply. And this is my home. We know, but be practical, Tyler chimed in. The maintenance alone is going to be expensive. And what if you fall? What if you have a medical emergency at Sunset Manor? There's always someone to help. Vanessa nodded enthusiastically. The rooms are lovely, Eleanor. Much easier to manage than this old place. I looked around at the home Robert and I had shared for over 30 years. Every piece of furniture told a story. Every photograph on the mantel captured a precious memory. The kitchen still smelled faintly of his morning coffee. I appreciate your concern, but I'm not ready to make any major decisions yet. Marcus exchanged a look with Tyler, the same look they'd been sharing all day, as if they were communicating in some secret language I didn't understand. Of course not, Marcus said smoothly. Just something to think about. We'll help you with whatever you decide. After they left, I sat alone in my kitchen as darkness fell over Millbrook Valley. That's when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, who are you? My heart pounded as I typed back, I can't say. They're watching. Don't trust your sons. This time, I nearly dropped the phone. Whoever was sending these messages knew about Marcus and Tyler. They knew details about my life that only someone very close to us could know. I paced through my empty house, trying to make sense of what was happening. Was someone playing a sick joke? Was I losing my mind from grief? Or was there something darker at work? Something I'd been too trusting to see. I thought about Robert's last weeks. He'd seemed anxious, distracted. Several times I'd caught him staring out the window with a worried expression. When I asked what was troubling him, he'd just shake his head and say, Probably nothing, Ellie. Just an old man's worries. But Robert wasn't the type to worry about nothing. The next morning dawned gray and cheerless. I made coffee for one, a ritual that nearly broke my heart, and sat at our kitchen table, staring at the empty chair where Robert used to read me interesting articles from the newspaper. My phone buzzed. Another message. Check your bank account. Look for withdrawals you didn't approve. With trembling fingers, I called Millbrook Community Bank. Sarah Peterson, our longtime account manager, answered with genuine sympathy in her voice. Eleanor, I'm so sorry about Robert. He was such a kind man. Thank you, Sarah. I need to review our recent account activity. There are some things I don't understand. Of course. Let me pull up your statements. What Sarah told me made my blood run cold. Over the past 6 months, there had been 5 large withdrawals from our savings account totaling $18,000. Each withdrawal had been made in person with Robert's signature on the forms. Did my husband come alone for these transactions? I asked. Sarah paused. Actually, no. He came with Marcus several times. Marcus said Robert was having trouble with his eyesight and needed help reading the paperwork. But Robert's vision was fine with his glasses, and he'd never mentioned any problems reading documents. Sarah, can you email me copies of those withdrawal slips? Absolutely. I'll send them right over. When the documents arrived in my inbox, I studied Robert's signatures carefully. They looked different, shakier than his usual confident handwriting, more hesitant. My phone rang. Marcus. Good morning, Mom. How are you feeling today? I'm reviewing some bank statements. Can you explain why you helped your father withdraw $18,000 from our savings without telling me? Silence. Then, Dad wanted to handle some things privately. He was planning some improvements to the house as a surprise for your anniversary. What improvements? And why would he need $18,000? He was going to redo the kitchen and bathroom. He had contractors lined up, but then... Marcus's voice trailed off, implying Robert's death had interrupted these fictional plans. I walked through my house, looking for any evidence of planned renovations. No contractor estimates. No material samples. No permits. Nothing to support Marcus's story. That afternoon, I decided to visit Robert's woodworking shop behind our house. He'd spent hours there every day crafting beautiful furniture and birdhouses that he sold at the farmer's market. The shop was his sanctuary, his escape from the world. The building still smelled like sawdust and wood stain. Robert's tools hung in their designated places on the pegboard wall. His current project, a jewelry box for our granddaughter, sat unfinished on his workbench. I'd been in this shop thousands of times, but today I looked at it with fresh eyes. In his desk drawer, I found something that stopped my heart, a letter addressed to me in Robert's careful handwriting. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, something has happened to me. I pray I'm wrong, but I've become suspicious of Marcus and Tyler's recent behavior. They've been asking unusual questions about our finances, our insurance, our daily routines. Yesterday, Marcus suggested I should increase my life insurance for your security, but his insistence felt wrong. I've hidden some documents in the false bottom of my toolbox. If anything happens to me, please look there. And Eleanor, be careful whom you trust. Even family can surprise us. I love you with all my heart, Robert. With shaking hands, I opened Robert's toolbox and felt along the bottom until I found a small, hidden compartment. Inside were photocopies of the bank withdrawal slips notes in Robert's handwriting and a business card for someone named Detective Daniel Hayes, private investigator. Robert's notes were devastating. March 3rd. Marcus asked detailed questions about my morning routine. When do I drink my coffee? Do I take any medications? Seemed odd. March 8th. Tyler asked about our insurance policies. Wanted to know exact amounts and beneficiaries. Why now? March 15th. Found Tyler going through my desk when he thought I was napping. He claimed he was looking for stamps. March 20th. Marcus brought official-looking papers for me to sign. Said they were to update my insurance beneficiaries. I signed, but something felt wrong. The forms seemed more complex than necessary. My husband had been documenting his suspicions about our sons. But the most chilling entry was dated just 3 days before his death. March 25th. Marcus brought me a new coffee blend, said it was a special health supplement a doctor recommended for men my age. It tastes bitter, but Marcus insisted it would help with my energy levels. I've been feeling dizzy and confused since I started drinking it. Going to stop and see how I feel? Robert had never mentioned feeling unwell. I'd assumed his occasional fatigue was normal for a 70-year-old man who worked with his hands all day. I called the number on Detective Hayes' business card. Hayes Investigations, this is Daniel. Mr. Hayes, my name is Eleanor Mitchell. I found your card among my husband Robert's papers. He passed away last week. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm so sorry for your loss. Robert was a good man. I was afraid something like this might happen. What do you mean? Your husband hired me to investigate your sons. He suspected they were planning something involving his insurance money. He was supposed to call me the day he died, but... Can we meet? There's so much I need to understand. Absolutely. But Mrs. Mitchell, be very careful. If Robert's suspicions were correct, you could be in danger too. We arranged to meet the next day at the Riverside Diner, 2 towns over where no one would recognize us. As I hung up, I realized my hands had stopped shaking. For the first time since Robert's funeral, I felt something other than grief determination. Detective Daniel Hayes was nothing like I'd expected. Younger than me by about 10 years, with kind eyes and a gentle manner that immediately put me at ease. We met at a corner booth in the Riverside Diner, where the afternoon crowd was thin and conversation could remain private. Mrs. Mitchell, before we begin, I need you to understand that what I'm about to tell you will be difficult to hear. I straightened my shoulders. I've already accepted that my sons might have been involved in their father's death. I need to know the truth. Daniel opened a folder and spread several documents across the table. Robert first contacted me 6 weeks before he died. He was concerned about Marcus and Tyler's sudden interest in his finances and their pressure to increase his life insurance. He showed me photographs Robert had taken of the insurance documents Marcus had brought him to sign. Your husband was clever. He photographed everything before signing. Look at this clause here, it's not standard. It allows for immediate payout to beneficiaries in case of accidental death, bypassing the usual investigation period. How is that legal? It's not illegal, but it's unusual. Most insurance companies require thorough investigation before paying large claims. This policy was specifically designed to avoid delays. Daniel pulled out another document. Robert also documented every interaction with your sons. He gave me copies of everything. Look at this. He showed me pages of Robert's meticulous notes, more detailed than what I'd found in his shop. The entries painted a picture of increasing pressure and manipulation. February 10th. Tyler asked if I still drive to the shop alone every morning. When I said yes, he suggested I should be more careful. At your age, even a small accident could be serious. February 18th. Marcus brought up our will again. Wanted to make sure everything was properly organized for Eleanor's sake. I told him our affairs were in order, but he kept pressing for details. February 25th. Vanessa made an odd comment at dinner. She said, "It must be nice to know your family will be taken care of when you're gone." Why would she bring up my death? Robert was building a case, Daniel explained. He suspected your sons were planning his death, but he needed evidence. Did he get any evidence? Daniel's expression grew grim. The day before he died, Robert called me. He said Marcus had been insisting he drink a special coffee supplement every morning. Robert had started feeling sick, dizzy, confused, having trouble seeing clearly. He was going to bring me a sample of the supplement for testing. My heart sank. But he died before he could bring it to you. Yes, and Mrs. Mitchell, the symptoms Robert described are consistent with methanol poisoning. Methanol? It's a type of alcohol used in industrial processes. In small doses over time, it causes exactly what Robert experienced: dizziness, confusion, vision problems. In larger doses, it causes blindness, brain damage, and death. I gripped the edge of the table. Are you saying my sons slowly poisoned their father? I can't prove it yet, but yes, I believe that's exactly what happened. The beauty of methanol poisoning is that it mimics natural causes: heart attack, stroke, organ failure. Unless someone specifically tests for it, it goes undetected. But the hospital would have run tests, only if they suspected poisoning. If the family explained the symptoms as a sudden health crisis, the doctors would focus on treating what appeared to be cardiac or neurological issues. Daniel leaned forward. Mrs. Mitchell, I need to ask you something important. Has Marcus or Tyler suggested you drink or eat anything special since Robert's death? Any health supplements, specialties, anything they've been insistent about? I thought about the coffee Marcus had brought to the house the day of the funeral, how he'd seemed disappointed when I declined to drink it. Marcus brought expensive coffee yesterday. He said it would help with my grief, help me sleep better. Don't consume anything they give you. Nothing at all. You think they're planning to kill me too? I think they want control of Robert's insurance money and your assets. Whether they plan to kill you or just have you declared incompetent, I can't say. But either way, you're in danger. Daniel pulled out a small recording device. I've been monitoring your sons since Robert hired me. I have recordings of some very interesting phone conversations. He pressed play. Tyler's voice filled the small space between us. The old man is getting suspicious. We need to move faster. I know, came Marcus's reply. I increased the dose yesterday. He should be dead within a week. And Mom? She'll be easy once Dad is gone. We'll convince her she needs help, get power of attorney, and handle everything from there. I felt bile rise in my throat. These were my children, babies. I'd nursed toddlers. I'd comforted young men. I'd cheered on at graduation. How had they become monsters, capable of discussing their parents' deaths so casually? There's more, Daniel said gently. He played another recording, this one with Vanessa's voice. Marcus, the insurance company, called. They need a death certificate before they process the claim. I'll handle it. Tyler's contact at the funeral home will make sure everything looks normal. How much are we talking about total? $150,000 While I was dollars from Dad's life insurance plus whatever we can get from selling the house and liquidating their assets. Probably close to $300,000 total. Not bad for 6 months of work. I stared at Daniel in shock. $300,000. But our life insurance was only $25,000. Marcus changed the policy 8 months ago. He forged Robert's signature and used his position as your son to authorize the increase. The bank statements show the premiums being paid from your account. That's where the $18,000 went. Everything clicked into place. The mysterious bank withdrawals, Robert's increasing anxiety, Marcus's sudden interest in our finances, it had all been part of a carefully orchestrated plan. What can we do? I asked. How do we prove any of this? We need more evidence. The recordings help, but we need physical proof, the coffee supplement documentation of the insurance fraud evidence of the forgery. Daniel leaned back in his seat. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to ask you to do something dangerous. I need you to go back home and act normal. Let Marcus and Tyler think you're just a grieving widow who doesn't suspect anything. Meanwhile, I'll work on getting the evidence we need. What if they try to poison me? Don't eat or drink anything they give you. If they insist, pretend to consume it but dispose of it secretly. Can you do that? I thought about Robert's letter about his faith that I would find the truth. Yes, I can do that. Good. And Mrs. Mitchell, your husband, was proud of your strength. He told me you were tougher than people realized. As I drove home through the familiar streets of Millbrook Valley, I felt a strange combination of grief and fury building inside me. My sons had stolen more than money. They'd stolen my husband, my peace of mind, my faith in family. But they'd underestimated me. They thought I was just a helpless old woman who would quietly fade away. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The next few days passed in an elaborate charade. I played the role of the grieving, confused widow, while Marcus and Tyler circled like vultures waiting for their opportunity to strike. Marcus arrived Wednesday morning with coffee and pastries from the bakery downtown. Mom, you need to keep your strength up. I brought your favorite cinnamon rolls and that special coffee blend I mentioned. The coffee smelled bitter with an underlying chemical odor that made my stomach turn. That's so thoughtful, sweetheart. Let me just finish tidying up the kitchen first. While Marcus arranged the pastries on plates, I discreetly poured the coffee down the sink and refilled my cup with regular coffee from my own pot. When I returned to the dining room, Marcus was watching me expectantly. How does the coffee taste? Different from your usual brand. It's unique. Very strong. I took tiny sips and nodded appreciatively. Thank you for thinking of me. Over the next hour, Marcus brought up the assisted living facility repeatedly. Sunset Manor has an opening next month. I think we should at least tour it. Maybe in a few weeks. I'm still processing everything. His jaw tightened with frustration, but he managed to keep his voice gentle. Of course, there's no rush, but I could see in his eyes that there was very much a rush. Thursday brought Tyler and Vanessa for an impromptu visit. Vanessa carried a large thermos of what she claimed was a healing tea blend. Eleanor, this is chamomile with special herbs for grief and anxiety. My therapist recommended it. The tea smelled wrong, too sweet with an undertone that reminded me of the bitter coffee. I pretended to drink it while Tyler discussed practical matters. Mom, we really need to talk about finances. The funeral expenses, ongoing bills, property taxes, it's a lot to manage alone. Your father handled most of that. I'm still learning. That's exactly why we should help. We could set up a joint account, make things easier. A joint account they would control. I nodded thoughtfully. Let me think about it. Friday evening, both sons arrived together, never a good sign. Marcus carried a manila folder thick with documents. Mom, we've been talking to a lawyer about Dad's estate. There are some papers you need to sign to avoid probate complications. I examined the documents carefully, though they were dense with legal terminology. Mixed in with legitimate forms were several that would grant Marcus and Tyler power of attorney and authorization to make medical decisions on my behalf. This is a lot to process. Can I review these over the weekend? Marcus's mask slipped slightly. These are time-sensitive, Mom. The lawyer said, I said I need time. I interrupted firmly. Robert always told me never to sign anything I didn't fully understand. Tyler shot Marcus a warning look. Of course. Take your time. But as they gathered their papers, I heard Tyler mutter under his breath, "She's getting suspicious." That night, Detective Hayes called with an update. "I had the coffee sample tested, the one Robert saved. High levels of methanol, just as we suspected. I also found something interesting about the insurance policy." "What?" "Marcus used a document service that specializes in estate planning for busy families. It's actually a front for insurance fraud. They help people forge signatures and manipulate policies. The FBI has been watching them for months. So we have evidence. We're getting close. But Eleanor, I need you to be extra careful. My sources indicate Marcus and Tyler are getting impatient. They may escalate their timeline." Saturday morning proved Detective Hayes right. Marcus arrived early with Tyler close behind. Both looked tense, determined. "Mom, we need to talk," Marcus said without preamble. "Your behavior this week has us worried." "What behavior?" "You seem paranoid, confused. Yesterday you claimed you didn't remember agreeing to tour Sunset Manor, but we definitely discussed it." That was a lie, but Tyler nodded gravely. "We're concerned about your mental state, Mom. Grief can cause serious psychological issues in elderly people." "Elderly people. I was 66, not 96. We've arranged for Dr. Phillips to examine you this afternoon," Marcus continued. "He specializes in age-related cognitive decline." "I don't need a doctor. I need time to grieve my husband." "Mom?" Tyler said gently, "Denial is a symptom of the problem. Dr. Phillips can help you." I realized this was their endgame. They would have me declared mentally incompetent, gain control of my finances, and either institutionalize me or find another way to eliminate me entirely. What if I refused to see this doctor? Marcus and Tyler exchanged that look again, their secret communication that had been occurring throughout this entire nightmare. "Then we'll have to pursue other options," Marcus said quietly. "Legal options. We can petition the court to have you evaluated involuntarily if we believe you're a danger to yourself." It was a direct threat. Submit to their control, or they would use the legal system to force me into compliance. I pretended to consider their proposal while my mind raced. I needed to end this charade before they succeeded in having me committed or worse. "All right," I said finally. "If you really think it's necessary, I'll see Dr. Phillips." Both sons relaxed visibly. "You're making the right choice, Mom," Tyler said. "But first, I'd like to have one final family dinner. Tonight. Just the three of us like when you were boys." Marcus looked surprised. "Tonight? Please. I know I've been difficult lately. I'd like to cook for my sons one more time before everything changes." Tyler seemed touched by this request. Even Marcus softened slightly. "That sounds nice, Mom. What time?" 6 o'clock. I'll make your favorite pot roast with mashed potatoes." After they left, I immediately called Detective Hayes. "It's happening tonight. They're planning to have me declared incompetent tomorrow. I need to force their hand. Eleanor, that's too dangerous. Let me handle this through official channels." "There's no time. They've accelerated their timeline, which means I'm in immediate danger, but I have an idea." I explained my plan. Daniel was silent for a long moment. "That's incredibly risky." "Robert took risks to protect me. Now it's my turn to take risks to get him justice." "All right, I'll be ready. But Eleanor, if this goes wrong?" "It won't go wrong. I'm fighting for my husband's memory and my own life. That's powerful motivation." I spent the afternoon preparing for what I knew would be the most important dinner of my life. The pot roast simmered in the oven, filling the house with the comforting aromas of my family's past. But this meal wasn't about comfort. It was about justice. Detective Hayes had positioned himself across the street in an unmarked van equipped with recording equipment and backup from the county sheriff's department. We'd agreed on signals. If I needed immediate help, I would turn on my front porch light. At exactly 6 o'clock, Marcus and Tyler arrived together. They seemed relaxed, confident that victory was within their grasp. Tomorrow, they would have me declared incompetent, and within weeks, they'd be rich. "Something smells incredible, Mom," Tyler said, kissing my cheek. His affection felt like a snake's caress. "Just like old times," Marcus added, settling into his father's chair at the head of the table. I served dinner with steady hands, watching my sons enjoy what they believed would be their last obstacle's final meal. They chatted about work, about Vanessa's latest shopping excursions, about their plans for an upcoming vacation. Not once did they mention their father. As I cleared the main course, Marcus pulled out a small pill bottle. "Mom, Dr. Phillips asked us to give you these before your appointment tomorrow. They're mild sedatives to help with anxiety." The pills were small and white, innocent-looking, but I had no doubt they contained something far more dangerous than a mild sedative. "That's thoughtful, but I don't like taking medication on an empty stomach. Let me serve dessert first." I brought out Robert's favorite apple pie with vanilla ice cream. As my sons dug into their portions, I took a small bite and then pushed my plate away. "I'm not very hungry tonight. Too nervous about tomorrow, I suppose." "You should eat, Mom," Tyler urged. "You need to keep your strength up." "Actually, there's something I want to show you both first." I stood and walked to Robert's desk, retrieving the folder Detective Hayes had given me. "I found these among your father's papers." I placed photocopies of their insurance fraud documents on the table. Both sons froze forks halfway to their mouths. "Dad was more observant than you realized," I continued calmly. "He documented everything, the forged signatures, the mysterious bank withdrawals, the coffee you insisted he drink every morning." Marcus recovered first. "Mom, I don't know what you think you found, but—" "Methanol," I interrupted. "That's what you used to poison your father. Slow enough to avoid suspicion, but effective enough to kill him within weeks." The color drained from Tyler's face. "You don't know what you're talking about." Don't I?" I pulled out my phone and played one of Daniel's recordings, their own voices discussing Robert's murder, as casually as a shopping list. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Marcus laughed, a cold, calculated sound that sent chills down my spine. Well, the old lady isn't as stupid as we thought." Tyler shot him a warning look, but Marcus ignored it. "What exactly do you think you're going to do with that information, Mom, who's going to believe a senile old woman over her successful, respectable sons?" "The FBI might be interested," I said quietly. "Especially since you used a known insurance fraud operation." For the first time, real fear flickered across Marcus's face. But it was quickly replaced by cold determination. "Tyler, get the pills." "Marcus, we can't." "We can, and we will. She knows too much. We stick to the plan, just accelerate the timeline." Tyler reached for the pill bottle with shaking hands. "Mom, you need to take these. Now." "Or what?" "Or we'll force you to take them," Marcus said, standing up. At 6'2", he towered over me. "You're going to take those pills, then we're going to find you tomorrow morning unconscious from an accidental overdose brought on by grief and confusion. Very sad, but not unexpected for a widow your age." "You killed your father," I said, backing toward the kitchen. "Your own father, who worked his entire life to give you opportunities he never had." "Dad was a failure," Marcus snarled. "A nobody who wasted his life fixing other people's junk. We deserved better than growing up poor because he had no ambition. He loved you, both of you." Love doesn't pay for college tuition or down payments on houses," Tyler said, moving to block my escape route. "We worked hard to build successful lives. We weren't going to wait around for him to die naturally and leave us some pathetic inheritance." I felt the kitchen counter behind me and knew I was trapped. Both sons advanced slowly, Marcus holding the pill bottle. "It'll be quick, Mom. Much more humane than what we gave Dad." That's when I smiled. "You boys always underestimated your mother." I reached behind me and flicked on the kitchen light, the signal Daniel and I had arranged. Within seconds, the front and back doors exploded inward as sheriff's deputies flooded the house. "Freeze, police." Marcus lunged for me, but Deputy Rodriguez tackled him before he could reach me. Tyler tried to run for the back door, but found himself face to face with Detective Hayes. "Marcus Mitchell, Tyler. Mitchell, you're under arrest for the murder of Robert Mitchell and the attempted murder of Eleanor Mitchell." As the deputies handcuffed my sons, Marcus looked at me with pure hatred. "You think you've won? We'll get lawyers. We'll claim you're mentally incompetent, that you imagined all this." Detective Hayes held up a recording device. "We've got everything on tape, including your confessions. Your own words will convict you." Tyler broke down crying. Mom, I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. Marcus said it was the only way. The only way to, what? I asked quietly. The only way to avoid working for what you wanted. The only way to get rich quick without earning it. I looked at both my sons, handcuffed, defeated, facing life in prison for murdering the man who had loved them unconditionally. Your father died believing you were still the little boys he taught to fish and ride bicycles. I won't tell him the truth when I see him again. The trial of Marcus and Tyler Mitchell became the biggest news story in Millbrook Valley's history. The local newspaper, the Valley Voice, ran daily coverage of the proceedings, and reporters from regional news outlets descended on our small town to cover what they dubbed the family betrayal murder case. I sat in the front row of the courtroom every day, watching as the prosecution methodically destroyed my son's defense. Detective Hayes testified about Robert's investigation and the recordings he'd gathered. The medical examiner confirmed that Robert had died from methanol poisoning. Bank records proved the insurance fraud. The defense attempted to portray me as a mentally unstable widow who had manipulated evidence and coached investigators, but the recordings of Marcus and Tyler discussing their father's murder in their own voices were impossible to explain away. Vanessa, facing charges as an accessory, agreed to testify against Marcus in exchange for a reduced sentence. Her testimony revealed the depth of their planning and greed. Marcus became obsessed with the idea that his parents were wasting money by living so modestly, she told the court. He calculated how much they could inherit versus how much Robert might spend on healthcare if he lived another 20 years. He said it was just good financial planning. Did you object to these discussions? The prosecutor asked. At first, yes, but Marcus convinced me it was really about protecting Eleanor's future. He said Robert was too proud to accept help, and that if something happened naturally, Eleanor would be better off. When did you learn they were planning to murder Robert Mitchell? Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. 3 months ago. Tyler called me crying, saying Marcus wanted to poison Robert, but make it look natural. I told him not to do it, but Marcus said it was too late to back out. The most devastating testimony came from Dr. Phillips, the physician Marcus and Tyler had arranged to declare me mentally incompetent. When investigators questioned him, they discovered he wasn't even licensed to practice psychiatry. He was a retired general practitioner who supplemented his income by providing fraudulent medical opinions for a fee. The defendants paid me $5,000 to examine their mother and declare her mentally unfit, he admitted on the stand. I was told she was suffering from dementia and paranoid delusions. I never actually planned to examine her. I was going to base my report entirely on what her sons told me. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for only 4 hours. They found Marcus guilty of first-degree murder conspiracy to commit murder insurance fraud and attempted murder. Tyler was convicted of the same charges, but with second-degree murder, as the prosecution acknowledged he had been following Marcus's lead. At sentencing, Judge Morrison delivered a scathing rebuke. In 40 years on this bench, I have never seen such a callous disregard for family bonds and basic human decency. You murdered your father for money not out of desperation or need, but out of pure greed. You showed no remorse, no recognition of the magnitude of your crimes. Marcus received life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tyler got life with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Vanessa received 10 years for conspiracy and accessory charges. As the bailiffs led my sons away in shackles, Tyler turned back to me with tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I looked at him, this man who had once been my baby, my little boy, who used to crawl into my lap when he had nightmares and felt nothing but profound sadness. I forgive you, Tyler. But forgiveness doesn't undo what you've done. Marcus never looked back. 2 years have passed since the trial ended. Millbrook Valley has returned to its quiet rhythms, though people still whisper when I walk through downtown. Some see me as a tragic figure, the woman who lost her husband and sons to an unthinkable crime. Others view me as a hero, the widow who refused to be victimized and brought her husband's killers to justice. I prefer to think of myself as a survivor. The insurance money that Marcus and Tyler killed for was returned to me after the fraud investigation concluded. I donated half of it to establish the Robert Mitchell Memorial Fund, which provides scholarships for young people in our community who want to learn skilled trades. Robert would have loved knowing that his death, however unjust, was helping other young people build honest careers with their hands. The other half, I used to transform Robert's woodworking shop into a community center where senior citizens can take classes, share skills, and support each other. We have a weekly grief support group that has helped dozens of people process loss in healthy ways. I still live in our house on Maple Street. The rooms are quieter now, but they're filled with new purpose. Detective Hayes Daniel has become a good friend who stops by for coffee and updates on local cases. We never speak of romance, but there's a comfortable companionship that helps ease the loneliness. I think about Robert every day. I talk to his photograph on the mantle, update him on community news, tell him about the garden that's flourishing without his expert care. Sometimes I imagine I can feel his presence approving of the choices I've made. The hardest part isn't the grief, it's the regret. I replay those final months, wondering if I could have seen the signs earlier, if I could have protected Robert somehow. But Detective Hayes reminds me that Robert knew the danger he was in. He chose to investigate rather than confront his sons directly, because he wanted to protect me from the truth as long as possible. He died fighting to save you, Daniel told me recently. That's how a man like Robert would want to be remembered. I've had no contact with Marcus or Tyler since their sentencing. Tyler has written me several letters from prison, but I haven't opened them. Some wounds need time to heal before they can be examined again. Maybe someday I'll be ready to read his words, but not yet. Marcus has never attempted to contact me, which doesn't surprise me. Even in his final moments of freedom, he showed no genuine remorse, only anger at being caught. The townspeople ask me if I'm angry if I hate my sons for what they did. The answer is complicated. I grieve for the boys they used to be, the men they could have become if greed hadn't poisoned their hearts. I hate their actions, but struggle to hate the children I once rocked to sleep and cheered at baseball games. What I've learned is that family isn't defined by blood alone. It's defined by love, loyalty, and mutual respect. Marcus and Tyler stopped being my family the moment they decided their father's life was worth less than their inheritance. But I've gained a new family. The community that rallied around me during the trial. The friends who check on me regularly. The young people who benefit from Robert's scholarship fund. Daniel, who listens to my stories about Robert and shares his own memories of his late wife. Mrs. Henderson next door, who still brings casseroles when she thinks I'm having a difficult day. This morning, I received a letter from Tyler's cellmate, a young man serving time for burglary, who wanted to thank me for visiting the prison to speak about forgiveness and redemption. I don't visit Tyler, but I do speak to inmates about making better choices and finding purpose, even in the darkest circumstances. Your story helped me understand that it's never too late to choose differently, the young man wrote. Thank you for showing us that even people who've lost everything can still make a positive difference. As I finish writing this account, the sun is setting over Millbrook Valley, casting golden light through the windows of my kitchen. The same kitchen where Robert drank his final cup of poisoned coffee, where I confronted my sons with evidence of their crimes, where I now prepare meals for one, but often end up feeding neighbors who just happen to stop by around dinner time. Tomorrow is the second anniversary of Robert's death. I'll visit his grave with fresh flowers and the newspaper he always liked to stay informed about local politics. I'll tell him about the latest scholarship recipients, about the community center's new pottery class, about the letter from Tyler's cellmate. And I'll promise him, as I do every day, that I'm living fully enough for both of us. The message that started this nightmare, I'm alive, trust no one, turned out to be prophetic in a way I never expected. Robert wasn't alive in the casket, but his love, his memory, and his commitment to truth lived on through my determination to seek justice. And the warning to trust no one taught me its inverse truth. There are people worth trusting, But trust must be earned through actions, not assumed through blood relations. I am 68 years old now. I am a widow, a mother who lost her sons to their own greed, a woman who learned that survival sometimes requires becoming someone you never thought you could be. But most importantly, I am Eleanor Mitchell, a woman who refused to be a victim, who fought for justice when it would have been easier to surrender, who transformed tragedy into purpose. Robert would be proud. And in the end, that's all that matters. This memoir is dedicated to all who have faced family betrayal and found the strength to seek justice, and to the memory of Robert Mitchell, whose love transcended death to protect the woman he cherished for 43 years.